there's this little detail within the Pokemon Winds and Waves reveal trailer that we find genuinely astounding and symbolic meaning in. You see, we start the trailer off in a sunlit room and focus on a sketchbook that flips through beautiful art pieces of each region, until finally landing on an illustration of Pikachu, leaning over to look at a bright and sunny ocean view of a brand new region. And that right there is our little detail. Not the art as a whole, but the time of day represented in each piece. A detail that clearly defines generations 1 through 8 as a completed arc, and Gens 9 and 10 as the emergence of a new era. Let's look to the sky in each illustration, shall we? We can see that Gens 1 through 5 reside in daylight, with Kanto and Johto residing in early morning, as assumed by the faded blue hue in the sky for Johto's piece. We'll just assume it's the same for Kanto. It transitions into early and late afternoon with Hoenn, Sinnoh, and Unova. Kalos resides at dusk while the sun continues to set over the horizon in Alola, until settling at night in Galar. Then, the sun rises on a new day, beginning at Paldea's dawn, and the morning sun greets us into a bright new region for Gen 10. In other words, this first day begins with Red and Green, sets with Sun and Moon, and settles with Sword and Shield, completing the arc of games that are more constrained in terms of exploratory autonomy. Then, the sun rises on a new arc that is open world with Scarlet and Violet, marking the beginning of a brand new era, a brand new day with Gen 10. But what do we mean by new era? Well, Winds and Waves is clearly meant to be something more than grand. It's an outcome of everything that came before and a symbol of what every game from here on out will be. No longer constrained to linearity and instead fully expansive, open, and free. Although this started in Gen 9, it was clear that Pokemon hadn't found their footing yet. But we had always held hope that the reason why the Switch-era Pokemon games were lacking in certain areas, mainly after Sword and Shield, was due to the franchise finding their footing. That they were using those games, Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet, and Legends ZA as a test for the inevitable Generation 10 to blow us all away. And we believe that these little sketches are a direct call out to this. These sketches are the very first thing we see in the trailer for Generation 10. They're the first thing they want us to see. The sketches gain color, more detail, become more vibrant with more tools being used to make the pieces as we go along. The physical illustrations symbolize an evolution from game to game. While what's being depicted, a single day beginning and ending, and then the start of a new day, indicates that after Gens 1 through 8, the Pokemon franchise wanted to begin anew with Scarlet and Violet. Yes, it was rough, but Gen 9 was their first time making a fully open-world game that follows the mainline series formula. Like in the illustration for Gen 9, it was only at dawn, only at the beginning of this new era. Just as Red and Blue were at the beginning of their era and eventually evolved into something greater, Scarlet and Violet, whose names are a direct reflection of Red and Blue, are also at the beginning of this new era, one that will continue to evolve. And here we are. Just look at this region. It's positively blooming with lush life and beautiful breath, and with Winds and Waves as the title. Titles that embrace the themes of being open and free. It just feels like this is finally what Pokemon had been wanting to make all this time. A truly open and functioning world of Pokemon. Winds and Waves represent the Pokemon franchise fully evolving into this new era of open world games. Evolving into, frankly, the game we all thought their first Switch release was going to be. But they're here now, and it feels good. Great even. So great in fact that let's compare Gen 10 with Gen 9. It's no secret that the Gen 9 games, Scarlet and Violet, were pretty underbaked when it came to the graphical fidelity side of things. The games were still enjoyable to play, but the feeling of a vast and sprawling open world was held back by immersion-breaking bugs, muddy textures popping in and out, low frame rate animations, glitchy models that would clip through objects, etc, etc. But it seems now that Pokemon aims to rectify all of this with Generation 10. If you look back at the reveal trailer for Scarlet and Violet and compare it to the recent reveal trailer for Winds and Waves, you start to see a clear picture. Pokemon is telling us, showing us that what they aimed to accomplish in the last generation will finally be achieved in this one. Just look at the way each of the trailers begin. Yes, one features a night guard while the other features Pikachu's mom and dad, but both play on the style of live action and realism, and then eventually fade to white as we settle on a first look at the new region. Both trailers give a cinematic view of multiple environments, and this is where we can immediately spot the difference in quality. The textures in Scarlet and Violet look blurry and flat, while in Winds and Waves, they look detailed and natural. Both trailers show off a sunset and a night sky, but Gen 10 has a softness with its lighting, and shadows that make everything feel so lush and fresh. Conversely, Gen 9 looks harsh and imbalanced, with some shots looking way too bright, and others way too dark. It's unnatural and feels off. And the presentation of the Pokemon is just night and day. Gen 9 shows off the Pokemon just walking around, sitting, and flying off in a few directions. The trailer doesn't do much to make the world feel alive. But in Winds and Waves, we see all kinds of detail. We see a Gloom running away from a Tropius, a Wailord shooting water from its spout next to a playful-looking Wailmer. The trainer gets greeted by a couple of Tangela and an Oddish as they enter the jungle-looking area, and we see some Slugmas burning bright as they slide up the edge of a cliff, looking over a pit of rushing lava. We see a marsh with Carnivine and some Timpoles, but one of them is swimming underwater while the other is just vibing. A Krabby is seen walking across the sand while a second one is hanging out with a Sandygas as its eyes look around and admire its claws. Corsola waddles along the sand while Marina flips open to bathe in the sunlight, and the underwater scene, oh my goodness, there's a whole ecosystem down here. The Luminian have a slight glow to them. A Krabby walks along the sea floor, a group of Tynamos swim by, a couple of Frillish spin around, and Wailord lets out a cry. And all of this is within an ocean filled with seaweed, coral reefs, and other plant life. Yes, we know that Pokemon is cherry-picking these shots to look cool and pretty, but that's the literal point. You're supposed to show off your game in a way that feels lived in and alive. It's something they didn't do with Scarlet and Violet. The starters are another perfect example. One trailer shows off each starter in a distinct environment that matches their typing, while the other shows us PNGs of them on a wall. And just look at the way they show off Pikachu. In Gen 9, he's standing in the same forward position we've seen since 2013. But in Gen 10, look, he's posing in a dynamic way that actually adds personality. And look at these windmills. Oh, come on, you know Pokemon did this on purpose. Scarlet and Violet had notoriously low frame rate windmills. But here, in the Winds and Waves, they show us a buttery smooth one that's centered in a shot with a dynamic angle that just screams, hey, look, we're getting better. And the architecture. When the Gen 9 trailer shows us a wide shot of Mesagosa and the Academy, it's supposed to be grand and awe-inspiring. They even got a rainbow to try and add some flair. But it just doesn't work because everything we see looks so rough. The surrounding mountains and trees are low poly and muddy, and the textures on the buildings are clipping in and out. Conversely, the shot we see of this giant mystery building in Gen 10 looks so clean and grandiose. It's detailed, smooth, dynamic, and the presentation makes you want to explore it and see what it's all about. And real quick, let us know down in the comments which starter you're picking for Gen 10. We're both leaning towards Gekwa, with Brout in second. Of course, the final evolutions could heavily sway our choices though. And if you like our content, and only if it's worth your time, please consider subscribing. Now, obviously this Gen 9 trailer wasn't the final product, and it did improve on some aspects by the time the game and its DLC released. But as far as first impressions go, Pokemon Winds and Waves is finally showing us what we all wanted Scarlet and Violet to look like. Finally giving us a look at the open-world Pokemon game we all dreamed of. It started with the rotating camera in X and Y, then evolved into flying around Hoenn and Oraz, into the wild area from Sword and Shield, then the open zones from Legends Arceus, and finally the fully open world of Scarlet and Violet and Legends ZA. But the only problem is that the level of quality wasn't quite there yet with Gen 9 and ZA. The textures on the Pokemon were great, and the human character models were some of the best in the series. But the environment was the last piece of the puzzle that didn't really live up to high quality standards. But now, that's finally changing. Yes, Pokemon is a ginormous company, and as such is held on a ginormous pedestal, as it should be. We should expect higher quality. We should expect a higher standard when it comes to the games just functioning. And actual constructive criticism is great. Being upset at a company for not living up to its legacy is fine. It's okay for people to want their Pokemon games to look, feel, and play like Tears of the Kingdom or the Dragon Quest HD 2D remakes. That'd be pretty awesome too. But when people start saying that anything Pokemon makes will just always suck by default, when genuinely good features and objective improvement is staring them in the face, then that's when it becomes complaining, and it's annoying. Yes, Pokemon is a company that has made some decisions that we really don't agree with, but they're also a company that has made games that we really enjoy. They can be both, which is something that some people can't seem to understand for some reason. If we can all give a fair observation on the things that look genuinely bad, then we also need to give a fair observation on the things that look genuinely good. That's why all the Switch-era games, maybe apart from Let's Go, are so divisive amongst the community. There are genuinely bad things in these games, but there are also genuinely good things, fun things in each and every one of these games. What we're trying to say is that Pokemon is a lot like FNAF. Just hear us out. When Steel Wool took over development for Five Nights at Freddy's, they created Help Wanted, Security Breach, Ruin, Help Wanted 2, and Secret of the Mimic. And out of all these games, Security Breach is the only one that fell short. But even so, many people will swear that Steel Wool has ruined the franchise, that every game they create looks and functions just as bad as Security Breach, when that is severely not the case. Like Steel Wool, Pokemon has a history of banger after banger, and yes, some games like Scarlet and Violet may have fallen short for many, but that one game is not their legacy. Like Steel Wool, they really messed up a couple of times, but they are still capable of producing greatness. We haven't even seen what this game looks like in 4K 60 frames yet, which we all know the game is going to run at, given that it's exclusively on the Switch too.
At the end of the day, although the time of day in these couple of sketches is just a tiny detail that may pale in the might of the entire Gen 10 reveal, it's a detail that we find genuinely astounding and symbolic meaning in. To us, these drawings serve as an indication that we are all embarking on a brand new adventure and ushering into a brand new day for Pokemon. And the sketchbook shows us that there are still many more pages just waiting to be filled. Pokemon Winds and Waves is a new beginning. So, like the illustrations, let's look to the sky and await a bright new chapter for Pokemon, beginning with roaring winds and glistening waves.